Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. The room was dimly lit, the soft hum of the night wrapping itself around the couple like a velvet blanket. Outside, the world was silent. But inside their cozy home, something unspoken stirred between them. She lay still, her breath steady, her eyes closed, not in sleep, but in quiet waiting. There was a calmness in her posture, yet a spark in the air hinted that this was not just a peaceful night, it was a night where something deeply emotional and gently intimate was about to unfold. Her name was Elena, a graceful woman from Moscow with a heart as soft as her accent, now living in the US with her husband Daniel, a man known more for his quiet strength than his words. Their marriage had grown from friendship into something tender, yet full of unspoken longing. This wasn't a story of wild passion or dramatic arguments. It was something far more interesting, a story of how love reveals itself in the quietest moments. Daniel stood at the edge of the bed, watching her. He had seen that look in her eyes earlier that evening, a look that only he could understand. They didn't need to speak. Their connection had grown so deep over the years that even in stillness, he could read her like his favorite book. And tonight, as she rested in silence, he knew exactly what she needed. Not in words, not even in touch, just in presence, in closeness, in the way a husband understands a wife, not just with his mind, but with his soul. This is a story of emotional closeness, of how love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to just be there. It's about trust, patience, and the silent ways people show each other they care. Elena wasn't waiting to be asked what was wrong, she was waiting for the feeling that she was not alone. And Daniel, in his own gentle way, was ready to give her just that. But just as he moved closer, his fingers brushing against hers, something shifted. A memory. A question. A moment from their past that neither of them had spoken about in years suddenly came rushing back. Would tonight bring them closer, or open a door to something they both tried to forget? Tell us what you think is going through Elena's mind in this moment. Have you ever experienced a silent connection like this in your own relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments and vote in our poll. Is love stronger in words or in silence? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear what happens next in this loving, slow-burning relationship story. Your feedback makes these stories come alive. Daniel stood quietly, his fingers barely grazing Elena's. The moment felt fragile, like a delicate thread stretching between them, not quite breaking, but trembling under the weight of something unsaid. Elena didn't open her eyes, but her breath caught just slightly, a small shift he noticed instantly. He'd come to know her in a way only time and love can teach. Her silences weren't emptiness, they were full of stories she didn't yet know how to tell. They had been married for 5 years. It started like many modern love stories, a casual introduction at a cultural event in New York. Elena had just moved from Russia to begin her career in interior design, and Daniel was a software developer who rarely showed emotion but had eyes that always noticed more than he admitted. At first, their bond was built on small conversations, shared meals, quiet evenings. But what drew them together wasn't just attraction, it was the calm they found in each other's presence. Still, there were moments like this when the calm felt like a question. Tonight, Elena's quiet wasn't just about fatigue. Daniel could feel it. It was like a soft echo of something left unfinished between them. A few nights ago, she'd mentioned something about missing home, about how sometimes, no matter how close they were, she felt like a part of her remained elsewhere. He hadn't said much then, but now, those words seemed to settle heavily in the room, like a silent third presence between them. As he slowly sat beside her on the bed, careful not to startle the peaceful rhythm of the moment, Daniel found himself wondering if he had truly been listening all this time, or just hoping that their love would be enough to cover the cracks. Was she waiting for him to ask what she needed? Or did she want him to already know? Outside, a light rain had started, tapping gently against the window. Inside, the warmth between them flickered like a low-burning candle. He reached for her hand, this time more firmly, and in that simple touch, the weight of all their shared memories passed between them, trips to the coast, lazy Sunday mornings, long hugs after arguments they never quite resolved. So much had been beautiful. But something now hovered, unspoken. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, do you believe in emotional intimacy without words? And if you've ever felt deeply connected to someone in complete silence, we'd love to hear your story. Like and subscribe to follow the next part of Daniel and Elena's quiet, powerful night. Elena's fingers slowly curled around Daniel's, the warmth of his hand drawing her back from a place deep in her thoughts. Her eyes were still closed, but now her breath was slower, more controlled, like she was steadying herself for something. Daniel wanted to speak, to ask what was really going on beneath her calm surface, but he hesitated. They had always communicated better in actions than in words. But lately, he'd started to feel like that wasn't enough. For weeks now, something had shifted. Elena had become quieter, often lost in thought, spending more time by herself in the small garden behind their house. She told him she was just tired from work, but Daniel sensed it was more than that. There was a subtle distance forming, like she was slipping into herself, and he didn't know how to follow. And tonight, lying next to her in silence, he couldn't help but wonder if their emotional closeness was fading. Elena, meanwhile, was trying to hold back a tide of emotion. She had always admired Daniel's gentle nature, his consistency, the way he made her feel safe. But lately, safety didn't feel like enough. She missed the feeling of being seen, really seen. She didn't doubt his love, but sometimes she wondered if he truly understood what she needed beyond the surface. Back in Moscow, life had been chaotic and emotional, but it had also been full of passion, unpredictability, connection that felt alive. Here, everything felt too quiet. Too polite. There was also something else she hadn't told Daniel. A message she received a week ago from an old friend back home. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't even inappropriate, but it stirred something in her. The reminder of a version of herself she'd left behind. A woman who laughed louder, argued harder, and felt things more deeply. She had changed since coming here. She wondered if Daniel even noticed. Daniel brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "You're quiet lately," he said softly, almost to himself. She didn't answer, but the corners of her mouth moved slightly, as if she was about to speak, then thought better of it. He didn't push. But in his chest, the uncertainty was growing. At the same time, their best friends, Mia and Raj, had been facing their own relationship hurdles. The two couples often met on weekends for dinner, and while it was never openly discussed, both Elena and Daniel had noticed the tension between Mia and Raj. Lately, Elena found herself strangely drawn to those conversations. It made her wonder if conflict was better than silence. If it at least meant people still cared enough to fight. Now, lying beside Daniel, Elena opened her eyes but didn't look at him. "Do you ever feel like you don't really know me anymore?" she whispered. The question hung between them like fog. What do you think Daniel should say next? Was Elena right to feel this way, or is something else going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you think this story is headed. What's Elena really searching for? Subscribe now to find out in the next chapter of this tender, suspenseful love story. Daniel felt her question settle in the room like a slow echo. "Do you ever feel like you don't really know me anymore?" It wasn't something that could be brushed off with a kiss or a comforting word. It came from somewhere deep inside her, and the silence that followed only made it louder. He looked at her, her face half lit by the soft lamp glow, and wondered how long she'd been carrying that thought before it finally slipped out. He wanted to answer her, to say something real, something honest. But the truth was, he wasn't sure anymore. Maybe he had gotten too comfortable thinking love meant stability. That quiet dinners and holding hands were enough. But maybe Elena was asking for more than he'd realized she needed. And the fact that he couldn't find the right words now only added to the tension pressing between them. Elena shifted slightly, her body turning toward him, eyes searching his face. Sometimes I lie here and wonder if we stopped growing, she said, her voice soft but sure. Like we got too safe, too quiet. I miss feeling alive. Her words hit harder than he expected. Safe. Quiet. He'd always thought those were the things she appreciated most about him. He never imagined they'd become the very things she was aching to break away from. But before he could respond, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She didn't reach for it, but the name on the screen was visible just long enough for Daniel to catch it. A name he didn't recognize, Artem. The light from the screen disappeared just as quickly as it appeared, but something changed in the air. He didn't ask. Not yet. But his thoughts raced. Who was Artem? Why had she never mentioned him? The seed of doubt planted itself fast, taking root in the soil of everything unspoken between them. Outside, the rain had turned into a steady rhythm, the kind that fills the silence between words. Elena closed her eyes again, but Daniel stayed wide awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind was spinning with questions, fears, and the growing feeling that tonight might change everything between them. What do you think will happen next? Is Artem just a friend from Elena's past, or something more? Comment your theories below and let us know how you think Daniel should handle this growing tension. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next chapter. The glow from Elena's phone had faded, but the name, Artem, stayed etched in Daniel's mind like a whisper he couldn't ignore. He stayed still beside her, his hand no longer holding hers. She hadn't noticed, or maybe she had and chose not to react. That silence between them, once peaceful, now felt heavy, charged with questions and a slow, growing fear he couldn't name yet. He didn't want to be the kind of husband who checked phones or jumped to conclusions. Their relationship had always been built on trust. But tonight, something felt off. The way she looked at him earlier, that pause before she answered, it wasn't just about feeling distant. It was like she was hiding a part of herself. Something she wasn't ready to share. Elena, sensing the tension, opened her eyes again. You saw the name, didn't you? Her voice was calm, but her fingers tightened slightly against the bedsheet. Daniel nodded, not saying anything at first. Is it someone from back home? He asked carefully. She hesitated, and that hesitation hurt more than anything. He's just an old friend. Someone I knew before I moved here, she said, avoiding his eyes. He messaged me last week. I didn't reply. That should have been reassuring. But it wasn't. Daniel sat up, the weight on his chest growing. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, trying to keep his voice even. We've always been open with each other, Elena. She looked at him then, her eyes soft but tired. Because I didn't know how. I didn't want you to think I was longing for something else. But maybe I am longing. Not for Artem. For something I lost in myself. The words stung more than she probably realized. And just as Daniel was about to respond, another unexpected truth dropped between them. There's more, she said quietly. I've been thinking about going back. To Russia. Just for a visit. To reconnect. To breathe differently for a while. His heart sank. Not because of jealousy or betrayal, but because of the space it created between them. Suddenly, this wasn't just about another man or a message, it was about identity. About Elena's need to feel whole again. And he didn't know if that version of her included him. But before the conversation could continue, his phone buzzed this time. He picked it up, expecting a work email or a message from Raj. Instead, it was a photo from Mia, of Elena and Artem together. A candid shot, clearly older, but intimate in a way that said they weren't just casual friends. The caption, "You sure she told you everything?" The room froze. Now, the audience is left wondering, who is Artem really, and why did Mia send that photo? What's Mia's role in this unfolding tension? Could Elena's return to Russia be about more than self-reflection? Drop your theories and predictions in the comments. Would you forgive your partner if you found out they'd been hiding this kind of past? Daniel stared at the photo on his phone, his pulse racing. The image wasn't just proof of a past, there was a closeness in it, a kind of comfort between Elena and Artem that spoke volumes without a single word. He looked at her, his voice shaking just enough to betray the calm he tried to keep. How close were you two, Elena? She took a deep breath, her eyes not looking away. We were together once. Years ago. Before you and I met. It didn't end badly, we just grew apart. But seeing his name again, it brought things back. Not feelings for him, but for who I used to be. I didn't want to lie. I just didn't know how to bring it up without making you think I was confused about us. Daniel let the silence stretch. He wanted to believe her. He did believe her. But trust was fragile when hidden truths started surfacing. And Mia? He asked quietly. Why would she send me that photo? What is she trying to do? Elena's expression changed, tightening as realization set in. Mia and Artem were friends too. She's always thought I gave up too much of myself when I moved here. I told her I was thinking of visiting home, and maybe she thought, I don't know, that I needed a push. Daniel processed her words slowly, the storm outside mirroring the one inside him. But something shifted in that moment, he could see it in her eyes. She wasn't running away from him. She was running back to herself. And the only question left was whether he would be part of who she found when she got there. I don't want to lose you, Elena whispered. But I can't keep pretending I'm not aching for more. I just don't know what that more is yet. Daniel finally reached for her hand again, this time with clarity. Then let's go together. Elena's eyes widened. To Russia? He nodded. If you need to rediscover yourself. I want to meet that version of you too. Just as the tension eased and they fell into a quiet embrace, Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Mia. It was Artem. We need to talk. It's about Elena. There's something she doesn't know. What could Artem be hiding now? Was there a deeper secret Elena never uncovered herself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you go with your partner to help them rediscover who they are, even if it meant facing their past? Daniel hesitated for just a second before opening Artem's message. His heart was still raw from everything that had come up, and now, this final thread tugged at something deeper. Elena watched him closely, sensing the shift in his energy as his eyes scanned the short but heavy line. She needs to know about her father. I didn't want to get involved, but I can't stay silent anymore. Confusion flickered across Elena's face when Daniel read the message out loud. My father? What does he mean? Her voice trembled slightly, the uncertainty catching her off guard. Her father had passed away years ago, just before she met Daniel. They'd been distant at times, but she had always believed she knew everything there was to know about him. Daniel sat quietly beside her, his mind working through all the pieces. This wasn't about a romantic past anymore. It was about family, about roots, about identity. Artem had once been close to her family, he'd told Daniel that in passing. Maybe there was more to his connection than either of them had realized. Later that night, Elena called Artem. The conversation was tense at first, but then something in her voice softened. When she hung up, she turned to Daniel with quiet disbelief. He told me my father had another life, another child. A son he never told anyone about. Artem found out after my father passed, but didn't know how to tell me. Daniel wrapped his arms around her as she leaned into him, overwhelmed. That changes so much, she whispered. It doesn't change us, he replied gently. A week later, they flew to Moscow together. The city was colder than she remembered, but the streets still carried echoes of her youth. Together, they met the man Elena never knew was her half-brother. The meeting was emotional, filled with hesitation and then a slow, surprising warmth. In reconnecting with her past, Elena began to understand that she hadn't lost herself, she had just forgotten where to look. Daniel stayed by her side through it all. Not to fix her. Not to guide her. But simply to be with her. And in doing so, they rediscovered a new version of their love, one rooted in truth, patience, and shared growth. Back in the US, things didn't go back to exactly how they were, but maybe that was the point. Some stories don't return to their beginnings. They evolve, just like the people inside them. How did this ending make you feel? Did Elena and Daniel make the right choice? Let us know in the comments, and if you'd like a sequel, drop a red heart in the chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who believes in second chances.